Well, good morning, Gopher fans. Welcome back to another episode of Sky U Pod following an awesome Golden Gopher victory against Wisconsin, 24 to 7 Gophers. Paul Bunyan's axe is back home where it belongs. And also, for a little icing on the top of the cake, Wisconsin's 22-year bowl game streak is over. Max, Kurt, good morning, fellas. How we doing today?
Morning. Feel good. I was, as you guys know, I was in the car on the way down to my in-laws for pretty much the whole game yesterday, which wasn't like the most ideal situation, but the whole first half I had Wisconsin's radio people listening to the game. I was in their call, and they were pretty defeated early on. It's like as soon as Locke, anytime he dropped back to pass, you could just hear it in their voice. All right, and he's gonna look deep and airmailed him. Like it was a very enjoyable listen for that first half. I know it got a little closer in the second, but it made the ride okay.
Yeah, I
Nice.
was also I had to record the game and watch it later myself, but was able to avoid most of the spoilers. I think I just had a good feeling that it was going to be a good outcome, so I wasn't really too worried. And yeah, it was one of those games that the score probably wasn't even as close as it looked. I feel like the end of that first half got a little bit funky, just a lot of punts, a lot of three and outs, kind of both ways, but it was kind of one of those two where it just felt like, okay, I know we're still at 14, but we're just giving Wisconsin a lot of opportunities to get momentum back here and kind of get on a roll if we're going to stall. But
Yeah,
in that second half, we figured it out. And overall, I was really happy with the way the defense played yesterday. And that was awesome to see.
I tweeted the same thing, Max, there about the end of the first half offense because we started with the ball on our 45 and our 40 and got no points out of it, and I was just like,
Yeah.
man, like I'll take the 14-0 lead at the half, but we left a lot of meat on the bone. And so I was getting worried. Just, I mean, we've had leads at Wisconsin in the past and it
Oh yeah.
come back to bite us. I mean, I think of the Jerry Kill's peak year with that 8-4 season when I believe we were up by 11 at half or something close to it. And obviously that one, I think we had 3 picks in the second half, which didn't help. But yeah, no, at the end of the day, we just dominated the trenches, and I'll let Shody get in here too. But I want to give a shout out to Quinn Carroll, who slid over to left
Yes.
tackle after Ursary went down early. Never played left tackle in his whole career, he said after the game, and he was great. I mean, he did an awesome job out there, and I hope that he had to play a lot more tackle than he was anticipating this year, and I just hope, and I'm sure they will, but NFL scouts will realize that, and even though his true position at the next level, if he's going to make its guard, to get that versatility and just being the team player he is to go out and be willing to do that, it speaks a lot about him, and he did a good job.
Yeah. Totally agree about Carroll. He stepped up big time. I was a little worried when Ursary went out, to be honest, fellas. I thought that was a big loss, and it is, but nevertheless, Carroll stepped up big time, and I think our ground game was pretty good overall this game. Darius Taylor had a monster game. Brosmer was good as well, but I do think the star of this unit is probably the Gopher defense. 7 of the 12 offensive possessions that the Badgers had were three and outs, which is pretty amazing. Shut them out. The ground game was like non-existent, 37 yards for the Badgers, which is usually their strong suit and something that we
Yeah.
struggle with. They usually have dynamic backs back there. This year they're a little down, but they weren't able to get anything going there. Locke never looked comfortable, really. You said it,
All
Kurt.
season.
Yeah, he just wasn't there. Less than 50% completion percentage. Um, 3 for 14 on third down. These past 2 games for the Gopher defense, I think it was one. I think Penn State last week was 1 for 11 on third down. I mean, the third down defense has been great. I think I saw they're ranked like top 5 in the country on third down, the Gopher defense. And that's huge when you can just get the defense off of the field and get the offense a chance. So yeah, this
Well,
unit, it was awesome.
yeah, and I think the biggest thing with that unit is you go back. I mean, because we brought up that statistic, they were like bottom 15 in the country at the time of like the USC game, because that was one of my keys to the game for then. And I think if you look at the defense as a whole, the pass defense was pretty dang good all year. I think the run defense just really got better as the year went on. And I know Wisconsin isn't the same caliber as Penn State or, you know, USC's offense even and all that stuff, but um, really from like the UCLA game on, I felt like the run defense just got a lot better. They were a lot more sound, a lot fewer missed tackles. So yeah, I mean, shout out to Corey Heatherman and the guy stepped up, and really the D line dominated this game. You gotta keep Anthony Smith here. I mean, him and Devin Eastern, they were all good. Danny Strigo was good this game. I know Josh Joyner didn't pop on the stat sheet, but he was still noticeable this game. They were all four of those guys are great, but I think Devin Eastern and Anthony Smith were probably your best two in and out all year. They were dominant again yesterday, so got to find a way to get both those guys back next year. And yeah, I think they finished with, it was like statistically it was 8 or 9 pass breakups. I know Gopher fans were hoping that some of those would turn into picks, but man, we were close on like 4 of them, and it just, whatever reason, we couldn't force another turnover. We used all those up earlier in the year, I guess. But overall, good game. Switching things back to the offense really quick, I just want to point out how much chunk plays help you score, right? First half, your first 2 drives come off a 40-yard. Well, the first one was actually the slot fade to Daniel Jackson. Amazing throw, amazing catch, great adjustment with guys all around him too, Daniel Jackson. And good to see him just add another highlight reel catch before he hits the NFL. So that was awesome. And then you're able to punch it in with the tush push. And then on 3rd and inches, the next drive, you set up the tush push and the end around to Marcus Major for 40-yard run. I mean, it just is so helpful, and it's obvious, but to not have to dink and dunk your way down the field all the time. And the Gophers finally did that in this game. Spencer, wasn't it you that mentioned that the broadcast brought up we had the fewest plays over 30 yards in the FBS?
Yeah, it was like
So
crazy.
there's definitely room for improvement on this offense, but overall, pretty good performance. And I thought Darius Taylor ran the most physical we've maybe seen him maybe out of any game he's had as a Gopher so far. Like, I thought even against Penn State, as well as he played, he was dancing just a little bit too much. I feel like the coach has said something to him to just lower your shoulder and get those 5-yard runs. Because, I mean, what do you have? 32 carries, 120 yards, basically, something like that. And just, yeah, it was a physical running day for him.
Yeah, he finished the day with 143, and I don't know how he didn't ever find the end zone, but yeah, like you said, Kurt, those chunk plays definitely help. But it was like we were able to do both. You know, we were able to hit the chunk plays and move the ball down the field. But then kind of there's probably 8 minutes left in that fourth quarter, and we would just pretty much seemed like we lined up in the same formation over and over and just said, they're not going to stop us the way we're running the football. We're going to feed our bell cow and Darius. And I think it's probably a testament, too, to how much, you know, keeping Darius healthy into November, like this is when you need him to be at his best. And he was, you know, yesterday. So
yeah,
that was huge, being able to control the football and keep it on the ground. You know, he averaged 4.5 yards a carry, and I think that's honestly perfect for him. Like, just the way he's running between the tackles, they know what's coming. You know, it's hard to expect him to really break a lot of long ones on that, but I don't know. He just over and over and over again, they were unable to stop him. And the offensive line, too, played very well on both pass protection and the run blocking.
Yeah, you know, I think I don't know. I'm gonna look back at this season and just
don't go
say,
here yet. Don't go here yet.
dang, you know.
Yeah.
But no, this game was awesome. You know, when you go on the road, beat Wisconsin, and credit to PJ Fleck. I think what is his record on the road at Madison at 4-1?
He's won 3 out of the last 4, and he's 4-4 overall against them. So he's 3-1 at Madison.
3-1 at Madison, and we were talking before he even was hired. We haven't won there since the 90s. I mean,
93, I think.
So we got to give him credit for that. I mean, it's hard to go into Camp Randall. And I know you said it, Kurt, that maybe, you know, around the holidays, Camp Randall isn't the same environment as it is maybe all year round because, you know, people are with family, whatever it may be. But, you know, nevertheless, it's pretty impressive that he's been able to dominate the Badgers as he has been,
This
during
series
his
is why
tenure
he's
here.
getting the contract extensions for the most part. I mean,
Yeah,
you're
for
0 and
sure.
15, I believe, in that run before he gets here, and now you're 4 and 4, winning 3 of the
Yeah.
last 4 at their place. Obviously, wish got a few more wins at home, but it, it it's back to being competitive. And Iowa's a huge rival too. Obviously, we want to have a few more wins there, but honestly, that series has been very competitive in PJ's time as well, and
Yeah.
just a couple plays didn't go our way. So yeah, I agree. PJ has done a good job since being here, obviously, and against the rivals. Um, Wisconsin for the longest time wouldn't consider us a rival because of that huge run they were on,
Right.
or just
13
trash talking
years,
us.
right?
But um,
Or
now they're really soul searching, right? I mean, because
they are.
I've never heard clearly Fickle and PJ do not get along. I've never heard PJ be so direct to be like, we just physically dominate them start to finish. Twice different. He said like more physical team was going to win today, and that's what happened. He was just, I mean, he just kept saying that over, which was true, by the way. I mean, we did just out
Oh
physical
yeah.
them, because we had plays we left out there. I mean, Elijah Spencer had an overall great game. I'm sure he wants that drop back deep down the
Yeah.
sideline and his slot fade. But Brosmer had a great. We didn't say that. Brosmer had another great game. I think PFF graded it out as his best on the year. The in and out, just a great season from him. But yeah, like the Fickle handshake was about a second maybe at the end of the game, and
Yeah.
PJ didn't let up on the physicality talk. So I'm wondering what
Yeah.
Wisconsin is thinking right now.
Yeah. I saw PJ. I'll let you talk your Max, but I saw what PJ said. I was watching the highlights, and he's like, "Good job," and that was it. It was like, "Good job"
Yeah,
with the
Yeah.
handshake, and uh,
goes
yeah.
back. Better
Hey,
dead than
Co.
red. That's right, Cole.
That's right, man. What a game, huh, Co? It was pretty awesome. No, but to your point, Kurt, uh, they're definitely soul searching. Wisconsin is, and you know, I saw before this matchup, Fickle is like, this is their Super Bowl, and I get it because everything was on the line for
Yeah,
Wisconsin, right? A lot of pride was on the line, and it is your biggest rival, so there's that. But during that win streak, that would have never came out of a Wisconsin coach or
no,
player or any Wisconsin fan. They would never admit that, right? They would never admit that this is like a big, big game. But I think that just how their season was going and what was at stake here, it meant that much more. And hopefully that loss makes them feel like, yeah, this game is a pretty important big game,
well, I posted it out on our Twitter account. I maybe not word for word, but I essentially like, I'm thankful that Wisconsin decided to value recruiting wins over wins on the field, and it's basically what it seems like they went with this new regime. And I'm not saying like if you're Wisconsin, I think you got to give Fickle another year. Like he is still bringing in those recruiting classes. You got to let him at least get to see those guys on the field and see what can happen. But yeah, it's just amazing to me that you look at that Wisconsin offensive line, and like I get the D line not being dominant every year, which Wisconsin used to have a really good D line as well. But to have a Wisconsin offensive line where the center is like struggling to snap the ball back to the quarterback, and then
yeah,
they're just getting pushed around, um, just stuff you never thought you'd see going back 10 years ago, talking to your old self about Wisconsin. So yeah, they got to figure something out, but I hope they don't.
Yeah, to kind of go back to the environment at Camp Randall, watching it on TV, it seemed like maybe even like the most, at the peak of the game, it felt like the stadium was maybe 80% full. Like you
Yeah,
saw the top sections or top rows of even the student section were completely empty. There was a lot of those like kind of nicer end zone suite sections that were looked completely emptied out, unless they were all just sitting inside because it was so cold. But I wonder how much Wisconsin really hated the fact that it was a Black Friday morning game, because they didn't really get to capitalize on their home field environment. But the way the game played out too, it was, I guess, pulling it up here, when Wisconsin missed their last field goal, there was still like 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and the TV broadcast was like, and the fans are filing towards the exits.
Mike Grimm
Two-score
pointed
game
out the
with
same thing.
over 10 minutes in the fourth quarter, and even the fans were like, "It's over. Like there's no shot. Like Minnesota's just gonna run out the clock, and we can't move the ball on offense." So it
Cole
really
brings up a
felt
good
good to,
point. It is deer season, so
yeah, they had
Yeah.
places to be, right?
yeah.
But no, it just felt good to be able to win a game in that kind of dominating fashion where, we've seen it in the past where we have a lead and we kind of just play to not lose and it slips away or it gets closer than it needs to be. But this one, we really just felt like we took control at the end. And, it was being up 2 scores, felt like we were up by 30 points at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, and listening to their broadcast too, they were raving about Cole early on having a bunch of nice stops in the run game in the first half.
Yeah.
So and they just point out you can see the 4-star level talent and like why he was a 4-star coming out of high school and being able to close down gaps quickly. And they're like, and that's not a missed block. Like they just didn't, they're blocking to the opposite side and he's coming up all the way across the field and closing down, making it a 3-yard gain instead of a big gain. So Coy continues to impress. I'm sure he'll want maybe a little bit of a bump in his NIL money, but I'd be shocked if he leaves because how many teams are you going to be the most popular guy at safety? But I think it's without question. I think he's the most popular guy here on this team. So, yeah, I mean, I got to give a shout out to you guys too. Going back to the preseason outlook, you guys nailed it, 7-5. You both had 7-5 record. That's what it turns out to be. I'm seeing, shoulda, you kind of alluded to it. I'm seeing some fans being like, kind of going to look back and say, shoulda, coulda, woulda. Yeah, I mean, I get that. But I mean, if Oregon beats Washington today, the Gophers take 7th place in the Big Ten, which now has 18 teams. I'll take it for this year.
Good
As
for the
long as we
first
can,
year, yeah.
yeah, as long as we can keep building on it, I'm sure, I'm excited for Drake Lindsay. I'm not expecting him to come in and have total control like Rosemer did in his first year, but I do think too, just with Drake Lindsay's physique and the kind of player he is, like I think there's an opportunity for more big plays with Lindsay. Lindsay's got a much bigger arm, I think, overall than Brosmer. Not that Brosmer's was bad, but Lindsay can sling it. So as long as you get playmakers in here and keep developing up, and hopefully Lemecky's back, Tyler Williams from the Georgia transfer still here, and you got young guys on the roster that they talk about being explosive. So I think there's a chance for you to be a little bit more explosive next year. Got to replace your tackles, obviously. Ursary and Carroll are gone along with Cooper. So, but again, a lot of their highest rated recruits on this team are the offensive line that are up and coming. So I don't know. I'm just saying the future's looking okay, and this win really salvaged the season. Because if you go 6-6, you're probably pretty bummed with going 0-4 in the trophy games, and 6-6 puts you in Detroit. 7-5, you might be in the Duke Mayo Bowl against a pretty good opponent. So
yeah, and I agree. There's definitely some meat left on the bone for the season. You look at like the North Carolina game, the Rutgers game, but you could say the same thing about, could have also lost to USC, UCLA. We beat Illinois and Brett Bielema. We haven't done in forever. So I don't know. I think overall it was a great season. I'm happy with it, but yeah, I wish we had another year of Rosemer. Like that would be
right.
Yeah.
Just to keep it going. But
to Co's point, I'm on the fence with Lindsay starting next year, not bringing anyone else. That just seems sketch.
Yeah.
It kind of is, but I just think if you're Minnesota, like, because Lindsay had a lot of guys coming after him at the end. I think to get those guys and keep those guys, you kind of gotta be a little old school and keep your promise to them and give them the shot, And then, yeah, it's a little risky if you could get someone in with experience to like tell them you're the backup for now, but if things go sideways, we'll turn to you. Like, great, but I just think that's kind of the day and age you're in with college football and being the Gophers. I don't think you can go out and get like can't go out and get like Will Howard, like Ohio State did with, and then they also have like 3 5-stars behind them. So
Yeah.
fortunately, we don't have that luxury.
And he's still young too. He might struggle early, but
Yeah,
it's gonna be the best way for him to learn, so that he can.
Yeah.
If he has one rough season out of the way, then we get 2 more seasons out of him.
And yeah, Coach says, I hear you. PJ talked high of him, but man, we saw what an experienced player can do. Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at the the younger or the FCS level or anything like that. Like maybe there is a guy that's being slept on, and if he's got a year left, and the great thing is now, if the Gophers want to do that, they have the sales pitch, right? Like look what Brosmer did. He's seventh all time now for single season passing yards for a Gopher quarterback, and I think if he gets 300 yards in the bowl game, I think that puts him all the way up to third, and he needs like
Wow.
215 or something like that, or 220 to get into fourth by himself. So or maybe it's 300 for second and 200 something for third. But anyway, like he had a great year. If the run game was just there all year, man, this offense could have been there. So, but yeah, if there is that guy at the FCS level that they want to take a swing on, and just like tell him like, hey, if we see some things in you, if you want to come here, look what we did for Brosmer, and you'll compete with our. You got to probably be open with him about Lindsey and how high you are on him. But yeah, go for it if that works out.
Yeah, I totally agree. I
I do
guess
have one
back
more
to
question. Sorry
yeah.
about this Badger game, because now I don't remember who posted it, but they were ranking the 4 Wisconsin wins. I like where you would rank this one among the 4 Wisconsin wins under PJ. Where would you guys put it? Because for me, I think I still have it's close, but I think the first 2 for me are still the first time we broke through,
Yeah.
and then the second time at home when we
Yeah.
stopped them from winning the West and
I agree.
and celebrating. So I had those 2 at the top,
Yeah.
and then the Lemecki Brockington game, that was also an exciting game. So this one's probably 3 or 4. I'd probably put it right above that one, to be honest, just because it does end their bold streak. So yeah, I'd put it 3 out of 4. Outing
I
agrees,
agree.
third best, but
Yeah.
it feels good to be the end of their to steal them out of the bowl.
Right. I totally agree. But yeah, like I guess back to, Kurt, you mentioned Max and I predicted 7-5. If you asked me at the beginning of this season and said, yeah, it's gonna be 7-5, I would have been like, here we go again. But after the season, after it's all been said and done, I'm glad that every game was competitive and the Gophers had a chance to win. Like they put the stat up during the game. I think the Gophers were like 4-3 or 3-4 in 1 point games this season, or like
Yeah, one
one
score game.
score games this season. And
Yeah.
so you just got to get over that hump. And had we had the run game going, like you said, Kurt, all year long, who knows what would have happened this season? So I'm not disappointed. It looks good, from here on out. You just gotta, like you said, get some playmakers. Hopefully, quarterback play is looking good next year. And yeah, I'm pleased with just how everything goes. And sure, winning the axe at the end of the year really kind of sugarcoats everything and makes
It
everything look
does.
good. It
You
does
lose
make
this
everything feel better.
If you lose the game, you're looking at me like, man, we went 6-6 with the year Brosmer had and all these senior linemen on both sides. But now it's like you won it, and you're like, all right, yeah, we went 7-5 in this new Big Ten, and we can build on
Yeah.
it, and go forward. So it was a
Hmm.
big win.
For sure.
We could talk about the quarterback of the defense. I know Lindenberg basically said he basically said he hasn't thought about whether or not he's going to come back next year, but if we can keep him around too and keep kind of that core front 7 intact, I think that
Yeah,
honestly helps so much with what the offense might struggle with too. If we can
yeah.
have, keep this stout defense to keep us in some close games. I guess your
It was,
thoughts on like how detrimental is it though, you think, if Lindenberg does leave? Because we still have Mav.
you still have Mav, who had stretches, I think, early on of being your best run stopping linebacker. Getting Lindenberg back would be huge. So I mean, this is going to sound negative, but like we just haven't been very good at replacing linebackers quickly.
Yeah.
Jack Gibbons was a great get
Right.
out of the portal.
Yeah.
Corey Marin by the end was solid, but it kind of took a while to get him developed. And we just had a lot of misses there. So getting Lindenberg back, being your best one, would be huge. I mean, yeah, I think maybe with how he's been banged up, he just wants to bet on himself and his athletic ability and go to the combine and get drafted, and he had strong tape down the end. So I get that. I wouldn't fault him for going, I guess, but if he could stay healthy and put together a little bit more of a complete season of what we saw here down the stretch, I
That
think
helped his stock.
that would do a lot of favors for him as well. So I can see both sides of it. It did seem like a long embrace between him and PJ at the end yesterday. They showed that on TV. But PJ also just likes to hug, so that could be anything. I guess, maybe don't read too much into that.
Yeah.
Seco says Mo makes some bonehead plays, though. He does, but he's got a nose for the football. I just think, like a lot of the linebacker play, it does take the young guys a while to find how to drop to the zone and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I mean, Mav is what? What was he? He's a redshirt sophomore, true sophomore this year. So I think Mav has a lot of upside, though. I'm happy with Mav's play.
We got Joey Gerlach, right? So he's going to be.
That's true. Right? Did we even talk about that yet?
That's the worst play of the game for sure. The low light. You get a shutout. For sure you shut them out if that doesn't happen. It's 3rd and 15. I don't know what he's thinking. Boneheaded play.
And it's going to be 4th and 15.
Yeah. I don't understand why, but
and they're probably going for a touchdown there because they're down 21 zip. You're not going to kick a field goal at that point.
Well, so I was able to watch that listen to it on the radio at the time, and you could just hear like the life coming back in that stadium on the radio. And I'm like, oh no, we've seen this story before. We know what's going to happen. It kind of like took the life out of me a little bit. But thankfully, PJ Fleck doesn't believe in momentum. He kept the guys focused and kind of stopped the bleeding afterwards.
I'm not sure if that sequence helps his argument because, they go in for 6 after that play, and then we come down and miss a field goal, which, by the way, hindsight's always 2020. It was like a 4th and 3, was it not? That's what I was gathering from the radio where we decided to kick 4th and 4, 4th and 3. And they kept on the radio. They just kept talking about how the wind was kind of swirling a lot. So
yeah,
and it was a 48-yarder that he missed, wasn't it? 48, 49. So
yeah, it's 49-yarder on 4th and 5.
Okay, well, but it is what it is. He had made 11 straight. I just would have mind if he kind of just went for it there to keep it going. But again, I guess you're giving them the ball right there, one way or the other, if you don't get it or you miss. So it is what it is. But yeah, that sequence after the missed field goal, after them scoring, and all of a sudden they had the ball right there. I was like, oh boy, here we go. And they got it down to what, our 10 before that holding penalty?
Yeah.
So yeah, it got
they
dicey.
Missed the field goal, which thank goodness they missed that because then I'm really sweating.
For how, like you said, how dominating it was to get that close. Like they never make it easy on you as a Gopher fan. It just got dicey. But in the end, we put them.
And then I know we talked about it too earlier in the show, but kind of that first half when you had the ball in great field position to not even get 3, that was disappointing. But whatever. In the end, Gophers got it done.
Yeah, and Wisconsin's defense at home has had stretches of being really good. So I wasn't expecting us to just score 40 on them. It just, with how the game was playing out, if you're up 3 scores at half, I mean, with how their offense was playing, that's just an almost insurmountable amount. They can't really do anything. I think they finished the first half with 45 yards of offense or something like that. I don't have the splits up in front of me, but they didn't have much. So, I thought that we just kind of let them hang around. But again, at the end of the day, the O-line and D-line really stepped up and took care of business. And the Badgers are at home crying. So it is fun to see their fans freaking out. And I do want to point this out, too. We'll get into a little bit of smack talk here. One of the Badger reporters pointed it out, like how you could tell by Luke Fickell's face that there were some tears shed in the locker room. Can you imagine? Someone pointed this out. Can you imagine if PJ had cried after a loss to Wisconsin, what their fans would have been doing and their media would have been doing?
Gosh.
Like Fickell's crying in year 2 after a loss at home. Like, come on, man. That's not a leader of men I want.
Not a great look.
No.
Well, it'd be one thing if it was like a hard-fought game and just like a devastating end to the, like a close.
Got your butt kicked.
Yeah, he just got dominated.
Yeah. It's your fault, man. um,
That's right.
yeah, yeah, that's right, Marco. Suck it, Badgers. Yeah, fellas, I do have a kind of a transition here. I'm looking at bowl projections. I want to see what you guys think and what potential matchup excites you the
Yeah.
most, and where do you want to go. So this is just from Gopher Illustrated, 24/7 Sports, and this is this is before this game. This was on the
Oh, okay.
26th here, so this could change. But 24/7 Sports had us at the Pinstripe Bowl against Pittsburgh. ESPN says
Be a
Music
fun game.
City Bowl against South Carolina. Another ESPN guy has the Pinstripe Bowl against Syracuse. CBS is Duke's Mayo against Duke. Athlon says Duke's Mayo Bowl against Georgia Tech. Action Network has the First Responder Bowl, which is in Dallas, against Boston College, and then The Athletic has Duke's Mayo Bowl against Virginia Tech. So I gotta
Um,
say, Music City Bowl against South Carolina sounds really awesome to me.
yeah,
So what do you guys think?
of all the destinations, I want the Music City Bowl. That's by far the best one, I think. Duke's Mayo Bowl wouldn't be bad. At least you're going south. Pinstripe Bowl, I'm hoping the wind just keeps us out of Detroit. How many times do we have to go to Detroit? I mean,
Send
although we win,
the
if we
Huskers
win,
there. Just send the Huskers
that
to
would be
Detroit.
great. Yeah. But as far as opponents, like South Carolina would probably be the most challenging, but also the most fun, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Trying to call the ones you mentioned. I think I think Pitt would be a lot of fun. I think that would be a good
yeah,
matchup. Syracuse, I doubt Kyle McCord's going to play. I don't think that one just doesn't excite
yeah.
me. And, we've played him a
No,
couple
me
times, I
either.
think, too, in both. So it's just, Virginia Tech
Duke's
would be
more
cool.
exciting than Syracuse, but
I
even Duke, I'm
agree.
like, eh.
I think Duke would be one of the better matchups, though. Just they're a pretty solid
Yeah,
team this year. And
yeah,
Virginia Tech, I would like that. I think we can handle them, but and that's cool just because that's a logo school to an extent where we don't see them a lot. So that's kind of cool.
yeah,
But again, like I think South Carolina and Georgia Tech and Duke would be like the most competitive matchups, fun games to see,
yeah,
most difficult games that we could play out of those ones you mentioned.
yeah.
Co says, I'm
Yep.
going to be so annoyed if Nebraska jumps us and gets the Music City Bowl.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, they're bowl starved, and everybody wants Nebraska because of their fan
They'll
base,
fill
and
the
that's
state. They'll fill the
they're going to
stadium.
travel. I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of Nebraska versus LSU, and I don't remember what bowl game it was
Wow.
in. Maybe like the Gator, the one like the Gator Bowl or whatever it's called. One of the what's that
Yeah.
Gator one called? It's Gator something. But anyway, so I'm not sure where that
Yeah.
is in the pecking order, but I don't think you can't give Nebraska the Outback Bowl or the Citrus Bowl because they're 6-6. Whichever one of those is higher, I'm sure we'll probably go to like Illinois because they're probably going to be the
Yeah.
highest Big Ten team that doesn't make the playoff. Um, Iowa will probably get the second of those,
Yeah.
and then you're probably to the Gophers or Wisconsin or Nebraska or Washington. So you should be out of Detroit at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, that was on the 26th, so those projections could be out of the
Yeah,
window after the win. So
at 7-5 with how competitive the Gophers had been, I think you're out of Detroit, in my opinion.
yeah,
You might end up in the Pinstripe Bowl or something.
yeah,
It is what it is. At least it's less frequent, but I like just going somewhere warm. I just feel like if you're the players, you'd rather go somewhere warm, like as a reward.
yeah.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
Ugh, it's like 7 degrees up here this morning.
yeah,
You
it's
know,
cold.
like send the good old Gophs to somewhere nice. I guess, fellas, I didn't know this, but I guess this was the coldest game at Camp Randall since like the 50s.
Yeah, they're not used to the cold. They can't handle it.
So, yep, it makes you cry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the dairy
Gotta
rate
give it.
froze up.
Mhm.
all
Can
season
I go
though.
back to those matchups too? I think the more underrated one would be to play Georgia Tech,
Yeah.
just because
Yeah.
they've had a pretty good season this year with a relatively newer coach. And I mean, they just beat a couple weeks ago. They beat Miami, and
Mm-hmm.
then we just saw what they did last night against Georgia
Yeah,
at
that was
Georgia.
crazy.
That
I
was such
mean,
a great game.
let it slip away up 2 scores, but man, that's
Yeah.
impressive. And even if
Yeah, it
Haynes'
is.
team wasn't going to play in the bowl game, their freshman, I can't remember his name, but he played against North NC State, and he's a freshman, and he looked
Yeah.
really good. So Georgia Tech would
Yeah.
be, because didn't we play them in a bowl game a few years back too, when they were not quite
Georgia
the level that
Tech,
they
I
are
think
now?
that was PJ's first bowl win was Georgia Tech. It was the old coach's last game, I think, and
Yeah.
we were ready for
At
the triple
Detroit,
option.
right?
I don't think it was
Yeah.
particularly close. The results. Um, let's see here. Got a couple comments. Georgia Tech has played some good football this year, beating Florida now, 8th overtime Georgia. How do we match up? I mean, the toughest part is like they're kind of, Kirby Smart said they're kind of still like a triple option, but it's like spread. Like they still run a lot of optiony type things. For me, I know they have a good backup, like you said, Max. But if Haynes King plays, that would be an X factor. That's just something we don't have. He's a physical runner and pretty good at it, and he can throw too.
Yeah.
So that'd probably be the toughest matchup. Well, South Carolina's been rolling too, so those two would probably be the toughest matchup. But I bowl games are fun, and it doesn't really
Yeah.
mean anything if you. So I'd rather see the bigger matchup. But Coach says Fickle's recruiting those Southern boys. Yeah, not used to the cold. That's right. So, um, yeah, any result now is going to be pretty good. I'd be surprised if we get stuck in Detroit, because you have teams like, isn't Rutgers 6-6 or 6-5 right now? I believe. So I think teams like that, although they beat us, so they might get the nod.
Yeah.
It'll be close, but I mean, if what's Washington at? How many wins does Washington have?
Don't know.
I think they're
Let's
six and
see.
five right now. Probably going six
They're
and six
six and
after.
five, yeah.
Yeah. So like Washington, I feel like you finish with a game above them, and I feel like you should go to a better bowl than Washington. Audience says no way they're putting us in Detroit. Yeah, if I had to guess, I think we're gonna get the Duke's Mayo Bowl. That's what I think. They want to put PJ's shiny head covered in mayo, just see what it looks like.
Yeah, Detroit would be the but
Send
We're
USC to
winning.
Detroit.
Send who?
USC.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, USC's going to a bowl game, and we beat them.
They can
Gosh,
get a taste of what it's like.
exactly. Yeah, you get another maroon and gold team in there, kind of. So it's
Yeah.
fitting. I wouldn't mind that. But yeah, fellas. I mean, best weekend of the year as far as college football goes, and rivalry weekends living up to the hype so far. Gophers get the job done. We'll do more of like a postseason talk of it all, because like you said, I know a lot of people are going to be like, "We could have won this game, could have won this game." At the end of the day, you're more than likely finishing solo 7th in the Big Ten, which is now 18 teams. So um, a lot better than what a lot of people thought it was going to be. Getting the axe helps cover a lot of wounds you were maybe feeling from previous games. But yeah, at the end of the day, we dominated Wisconsin 24-7, got the dub. We're feeling good. And yeah, we'll be back. We'll be talking when the season's officially over. Now we got to root on the Sky Pod parlay this today. And so I got the Gators. Who do you guys got again? You got
Iowa
Indiana,
State.
don't you, Max?
Yep, Indiana minus 29. Cash it.
That's a big number. All right. And Shitty, you
Yep.
got Iowa State over
Iowa State against Kansas State, I think it was 2.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to make money, everyone listening, you better smash it. Obviously, those lines could have shifted, so you might be out of luck. But if you did it earlier this week, count it.
Putting my savings on Michigan to cover. I don't see that's a huge number too. I don't think that's a bad bet, but I wouldn't put your savings on it, Marcos. Let's see. If you didn't want one player from the O and one from D to transfer, who would they be? Well, defense, I think you can choose almost anybody. Okay, so defense of people that I think have like a realistic option because I don't think Coy's gonna leave, but obviously, like if they were all up for grabs, I'd want Coy to stay just because he's the Minnesota kid, and I think that would be the biggest devastating blow as far as perception. So Coy that would, but like I think Anthony Smith is gonna get a lot of looks, especially so. As far as people that I think could get lured away potentially, I would go Anthony Smith on defense. Offensively, I'm not sure who would be up for grabs leaving unless it was like, I mean, Darius Taylor, I guess, is gonna get another NIL payday this year, I'm sure. But like Daniel Jackson's gone, Elijah Spencer's gone. Honestly, offensively, probably like a younger, highly touted offensive lineman. I think somebody might just look at that and throw a bag at them. So I'm gonna go. I guess I'd go pick your choice of Roy or is it Carroll's younger brother that's here? Isn't
Uh,
Carroll the younger brother?
his name is Carroll. I don't think he's his brother.
Oh, it's not? Okay.
I don't think so. I think he's from
Okay.
Oklahoma.
Oh, you're right. You're
Oh.
right. You're right. You're right.
Is it Blake Carroll?
I think so. But those are the high too,
Yeah.
right? Roy and him.
Nathan
So
Roy and Carroll.
I honestly I would pick one of them because I think that's I don't know who else is getting picked off the offense at this point with the guys graduated and leaving.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought Gears came on strong, but it's not enough for that, you know.
Yeah.
Unless
I
someone
guess
like Kansas State,
Rockington.
I don't think we don't throw to him enough for him to get lured away. I don't
Right.
think so.
Yeah.
Let's see. Go ahead, you guys answer. Co says Smith or Brown, Kerry Brown for the defense, which also good
Yeah.
picks.
Yeah. I mean, Coy, like you said, like it would be such a hit to have like that high of a Minnesota prospect get taken from us. And he's also probably the most impossible to replace that level of talent. I mean, it's not like it necessarily the most devastating, but you're not going to probably get that ever again, that level of talent. And you have him for another potentially 2 or 3 years, depending on how long he stays. But yeah, Anthony Smith would be a huge blow too. He's definitely a close second for me. But yeah, I can't. I mean, I guess at Mav if you really wanted to go somewhere else, but
well, I think Devin Eastern would get offers too.
Yeah.
Right. But I think just because Devin would only have one more year anyways, I think it'd be less devastating long term. But that would also suck.
You need Devin Eastern and Anthony Smith back up front.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're gonna be in a world of hurt.
Is there really quickly on that? Is there a stat for like how many times a D lineman gets like pushed out of his gap or pushed backwards? Because I feel like Devin Eastern has got to be top in the country on that. Like he never gets moved ever.
Right.
Like it's
unbelievable. They were high on him when they got him, and I think he's exceeded the high. He's been really good. It's been a long time, I feel like, since we've had somebody inside that can generate pressure. I mean, he's even getting after the passer a little bit. I know he doesn't have like a ton of sacks or anything, but it's noticeable. And I think that's what caused a lot of the picks this year was just the internal pressure on the quarterback up the middle. It just, when the pocket's getting pushed into them, you see a lot of bad throws. So,
right. But yeah. And I guess offensively, like you said, I think Roy would be a huge hit, especially because he's from Wisconsin, right? So there's that potential that he
grew up in UCLA, moved to Wisconsin, and all that stuff. So that's what Badgers fans bring up a lot. Like because he was the top recruit in Wisconsin, he came here, but I think his dad and brother are at UCLA or were at UCLA at least. So, I think the recruiting battle for that one, if you listen to Badger fans, was really down to Gophers and UCLA in that recruiting battle, and we won out. So probably helps beating them again this year. Beating them this year. But yeah, I don't think they'll leave because you obviously sold them something to get them here. So and there's 3 open spots too, so they got to be looking at that, and a lot of them were penciled in as backup. So I don't know what better playing time opportunity you potentially have looking at next year if you're those guys. So
yeah, I agree with both of you. I don't know. Obviously, it feels like you never know what's going to happen during this off season with transfers and everything. It's just kind of the Wild West out there, just people leaving, bouncing around. But I would
I
agree,
think,
Smith and
yeah,
Roy.
I think guys that could take a look. I think Darius Green still technically has a year of eligibility, even though he might have graduated. I think he still has a year of eligibility. So I wouldn't. I think he would be gone. The guy I hope comes back, even though he didn't get to play a ton, is Coleman Bryson. Um,
Yeah,
I think there's a spot for him in that Jack Henderson role next year, especially. And if someone goes down, he can rotate back to the other spots. Because Coy and Kerry Brown are smaller guys, so you might want them in different spots and not to both be the backline safety defense. So
yeah,
Yeah.
Cole asked who's back on the O line. Johnson, yeah, and then he named them all. Yep, Johnson, Beers, and Daniels are all back. So you got those three. I like Ashton Beers. He's still young, but I don't think he's like a. I don't think his starting spot's guaranteed to him or anything next year. I'm guessing they like Philip Daniels a lot at tackle, obviously. So I'm not sure if he moves to left tackle next year, just being the most experienced guy back, or if he just found a spot at right tackle and they're just going to keep him there. So I thought Johnson got better. There's a lot less mistakes here toward down
yeah,
the end, and it was never. I didn't feel like he was ever really getting bullied too much at the center position. It was all just like a mental thing for him. He did good as guard last year as a true freshman, so I really like Greg Johnson. I think he's got a really high ceiling here. So, um, yeah, I think we'll be okay with him either at guard or at center, depending what they want to do. Yeah, and Beers got a lot of playing time, so you're bringing back some experience, but left tackle is obviously a huge spot to replace.
yeah.
Yeah. Is Tony Nelson another interior lineman that's coming back? He's still pretty young, right?
Yes, yes. Well, yeah, Tony Nelson's the guy they were high on, I think, as well. So all those players are good options to have.
Yeah.
I still think they'll try and find a tackle, but they say left tackle, especially, is probably the most expensive thing in the portal. So makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll get into all that a lot more once around the bold game time and whatnot. Got a few games to see how they shake out, but yeah, we appreciate the support this year. Got over 100 subscribers now on YouTube this season, so that was nice. Appreciate that. Feel free to hit the like and subscribe button. We like doing this, interacting with you guys here as we do these recaps. Makes it a lot more fun, more of like a community, if you will, just interacting with Gopher fans. And it's nice for me. Why we did this is just like I like having the fan talk aspect, right? Like I love Ryan Burns' work; he does a great job. But there's some stuff I feel like he can't say because the coaches are obviously his sources, right? So when we want to complain about somebody like a coach or a player, we can. And that Co says, "Oh, sorry for all the questions, guys. Have a good weekend." No, Co,
We like it, Cole.
we like it, Co. Shoot in 3 more before the show ends. No, I'm just kidding. You have a good weekend too, Co. Actually, I do got to get going here just to help set up some stuff here. But yeah, anything else, fellas?
No, heck of a season. It was fun like always. Looking forward to the bowl, and hopefully it's a good off season. Get some guys, keep some guys, and
Keep
see
the
what this
quarterback.
next
I think
schedule
he's
is.
getting a lot of attention now. The 4-star out of Cali,
Yeah.
but again, I would sell to him that the room's pretty open. I know you got Drake Lindsay, but nothing's proven yet, so we'll be
Yep.
all right. Good night, Marcos. He says good. All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and yeah, we'll see you next time, and we'll be here probably next week, or whenever they get. Well, we'll probably jump on to preview the Big Ten championship game too, even though it's not us this year. But yeah, we'll be back, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.